My stepdaughter told me I wasn't her real dad and that I'd never belong in their family, so I packed my bags and left without a fight. But she'll never forget the silence in the house when her mother realized I wasn't coming back. I, 42M, never thought silence could be so loud. The argument happened on a Tuesday evening. I remember because Tuesdays were usually quiet in our house. No soccer practice, no piano lessons, just dinner and homework. My stepdaughter stood in the kitchen doorway, her face flushed red with anger, and told me I wasn't her real dad. She said I'd never belong in their family. The words came out sharp and deliberate, each one designed to cut. And they did. I stood there holding a dish towel, having just finished loading the dishwasher after making dinner for everyone like I'd done countless times before. My wife was upstairs in the bedroom, oblivious to what was unfolding downstairs. My stepdaughter glared at me with such intensity that I knew this wasn't just teenage rebellion. This was years of resentment finally erupting. She told me to stop pretending. Stop acting like I had any authority over her. Stop trying to replace her real father. The irony burned. Her real father hadn't seen her in 3 years, hadn't called on her birthday, hadn't sent a Christmas card. But biology apparently trumped everything else. I didn't yell back. I didn't argue. I simply nodded, set down the towel, and walked upstairs to the bedroom. My wife looked up from her laptop, asking what was wrong. I told her I needed some space and asked if she'd heard what just happened. She hadn't. The house had good insulation between floors. I explained the conversation, expecting her to be shocked or angry on my behalf. Instead, she sighed like this was just another inconvenient household problem. She said her daughter was going through a difficult phase, hormones and teenage drama. She asked me to be patient, to understand that kids say things they don't mean. I asked if she planned to address it, to sit her daughter down and explain that respect wasn't optional. My wife waved her hand dismissively and said she'd talk to her eventually, but right now wasn't a good time because her daughter had exams coming up. That response told me everything I needed to know. I'd spent 6 years in this family. 6 years of school pickups and helping with homework. 6 years of birthday parties I planned because her mother was too busy with work. 6 years of being the one who showed up to parent-teacher conferences while her biological father was nowhere to be found. And in one conversation, I learned exactly where I ranked. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through memories like a film reel. The first time I met my stepdaughter, she was 11, shy and quiet. Her mother and I had been dating for 3 months when she finally agreed to introduce us. We went to a pizza place, and the kid barely said 2 words the entire meal. But over time, she warmed up. Or so I thought. I remembered teaching her to ride a bike without training wheels when she was 12. Her mother had tried a few times, but didn't have the patience. I spent 3 weekends running alongside that bike, holding the seat, letting go when she was ready. She'd been so proud when she finally got it. She'd hugged me tight and said I was the best. That memory felt like a lie now. I thought about the time she was 13 and got bullied at school. She came home crying and locked herself in her room. Her mother tried talking to her through the door, but got nowhere. I waited an hour, then knocked softly and asked if she wanted to go get ice cream and talk. She opened the door. We sat in my car in the parking lot of a Dairy Queen, and she told me everything. I listened. I didn't try to fix it or minimize it. I just listened. She thanked me and said she felt better. Another lie, apparently. When she was 14, she made the volleyball team, but her mother had to travel for work during the first game. I went alone, sat in the bleachers, and cheered louder than any other parent there. After the game, she ran up to me excited about a play she'd made. I told her I was proud of her. She beamed. What was that worth now? By morning, I made my decision. I got up early, before anyone else woke, and started packing. I didn't have much that was truly mine. Most of my stuff had been absorbed into the household over the years. I took my clothes, my laptop, some books, and personal items that mattered. I left everything I'd bought for the house. The coffee maker I'd researched for weeks, the bookshelf I'd built by hand, the grill I'd used every weekend in summer. I packed quietly and methodically, loading everything into my car in 3 trips. The sun was just starting to rise when I finished. I stood in the driveway for a moment, looking at the house I'd called home. It was a nice house, good neighborhood, white picket fence and everything. But it had never really been mine, had it? I went back inside one last time. My wife was in the kitchen now, making coffee. She asked where I'd been so early and why my car was packed. I told her I was leaving. She laughed at first, thinking I was joking. When she realized I wasn't, her expression shifted to confusion, then annoyance. She said I was being ridiculous and overdramatic. She told me to unpack and stop acting like a child. I explained calmly that I wasn't wanted here, that her daughter had made that abundantly clear and she'd done nothing to address it. My wife rolled her eyes and said I was blowing things out of proportion. She insisted her daughter didn't mean it and I was being too sensitive. I asked her directly, did she think her daughter was wrong to say those things? Did she plan to have a real conversation about respect and boundaries? My wife hesitated. That hesitation was the answer. She started talking about how complicated blended families were, how I needed to understand the position she was in, how she couldn't force her daughter to feel a certain way. Every word confirmed that I'd always be the outsider who could be sacrificed to keep the peace. I told her I understood completely. I kissed her forehead, said I hoped things worked out for her, and walked toward the door. She followed me, her voice rising now, demanding I stop and talk about this properly. She said I couldn't just leave over one argument with a teenager. I reminded her it wasn't one argument. It was 6 years of being tolerated but never truly accepted, and her complete unwillingness to change that dynamic. My stepdaughter appeared at the top of the stairs, probably woken by the commotion. She stood there in her pajamas looking confused. I looked at her and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. I told her she got what she wanted. She'd have her family back exactly how she wanted it, without me. I walked out and drove to my brother's place across town. He was surprised to see me show up with my car packed, but didn't ask too many questions. He just helped me unload and set up the guest room. I spent the rest of that day in a fog, mechanically going through motions. My phone buzzed constantly. My wife called and texted repeatedly. I ignored everything. By evening, the messages changed tone. They went from angry demands that I come back to confused questions about why I was doing this to her. Not us. Her. That told me everything about where her priorities lay. I finally responded with a single message. I need space. Don't contact me. The next few days were strange. I stayed with my brother and his family, trying to figure out my next move. I called a lawyer to understand what divorcing meant financially. The house was in my wife's name from before we met. I'd contributed to the mortgage for 6 years, but had no equity claim. Most of our bank accounts were joint, but easily separable. We had no kids together. It would be a relatively clean split. On the 4th day, my wife showed up at my brother's house. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, eyes red. She asked if we could talk privately. My brother gave us space. We sat in his backyard, and she told me she was sorry. She said she hadn't realized how serious this was. She'd thought I just needed to cool off. I asked if she'd spoken to her daughter. She said yes. They'd had a long conversation. I asked what came of it. My wife looked uncomfortable and said her daughter was upset I'd left. She felt guilty, but also defensive. She maintained that I'd overreacted. My wife insisted she tried to explain my perspective, but her daughter was stubborn. I asked the question that mattered. Did her daughter understand that what she said was wrong and hurtful? Did she want me to come back? My wife hesitated again. She said her daughter was confused and needed time. She was young and didn't fully understand adult relationships. I pointed out that she was 16, not 6, old enough to understand consequences. My wife started crying. She said she loved me and didn't want to lose me. She asked what I needed to make this work. I told her honestly, I needed to know I was an equal part of this family. That meant her daughter treating me with basic respect and her actually enforcing that. It meant not being dismissed or minimized when conflicts arose. It meant being partners in parenting, not her undermining me to keep her daughter happy. She promised she'd do better. She swore things would change. I wanted to believe her, but 6 years of evidence suggested otherwise. I told her I needed more time to think. She left reluctantly, asking me to please not give up on us. 2 weeks passed. I found a small apartment and started moving my stuff there. I continued ignoring most calls and messages. My wife showed up at the apartment once, begging me to reconsider. She brought papers showing she'd started family counseling sessions and wanted me to join. I told her that was good, but I still wasn't ready. The truth was, something had broken that couldn't be fixed. It wasn't just what my stepdaughter said, kids lash out. It was the pattern it revealed. The countless small moments when I'd been expected to be the parent without the authority. The times my wife had sided with her daughter by default. The way I'd always been made to accommodate and adjust while everyone else stayed comfortable. I realized I'd been trying to earn a place in a family that would never fully accept me. My stepdaughter saw me as an intruder, and my wife saw me as a helpful addition, but not an essential one. I'd been doing all the work to make things function while they reaped the benefits. A month after I left, I filed for divorce. My wife was shocked. She called immediately, crying and asking how I could do this. She insisted we could fix things if I just came home. I told her I was done trying to fix things alone. She'd had a month to show me things would be different, and nothing had actually changed except she missed having someone to handle the household responsibilities. The divorce proceeded smoothly. My wife tried to fight it emotionally, but legally there wasn't much to contest. We split our accounts, divided belongings, and that was mostly it. She asked for alimony, and my lawyer laughed. We'd only been married 4 years. We'd dated 2 years before that, and she made more money than me. The judge denied it quickly. During the proceedings, my wife asked if I'd consider maintaining some relationship with her daughter. She said her daughter missed me and felt guilty. I asked if her daughter had actually said that or if my wife was projecting. She admitted her daughter hadn't said it directly, but she could tell. I declined politely but firmly. I said I'd spent 6 years trying to build something that was never wanted, and I was done with half measures. The divorce finalized 3 months after I left. I felt relief more than anything. I'd grieved the loss already during those sleepless nights and quiet days at my brother's place. By the time the papers were signed, I'd made peace with it. I heard through mutual friends that my stepdaughter had been struggling. Her grades dropped, and she'd become withdrawn. My wife had told people it was because of the divorce, making me the villain in their narrative. I didn't bother correcting anyone. Let them think what they wanted. 6 months post-divorce, I ran into my ex-wife at a grocery store. It was awkward. She looked tired and asked how I was doing. I said I was doing well and asked about her. She said things were fine, but clearly they weren't. She mentioned her daughter had been difficult lately, and she wished I was around to help. I resisted the urge to point out the irony. She asked if I ever thought about coming back, maybe trying again. I told her honestly that I didn't. That chapter was closed. She looked hurt, but nodded. She said her daughter asked about me sometimes. I didn't respond to that. There was nothing to say. As I walked to my car, I felt the finality of it. My stepdaughter had wanted me gone, and she'd gotten her wish. But what she didn't understand at 16 was that some doors, once closed, don't reopen. She'd pushed me away, and her mother had let her, and now they both had to live with that choice. I'd spent 6 years trying to be something I could never be, a replacement for someone who'd abandoned them. I'd sacrificed and compromised and bent over backward trying to earn acceptance that was never going to come. And all it took was one cruel sentence to show me the truth. The silence in that house when I left must have been deafening. The absence of someone who'd been doing so much behind the scenes would have been immediately obvious. No one making breakfast. No one handling the grocery shopping. No one planning family dinners or remembering to pay the bills on time. No one being the emotional support or the voice of reason. My ex-wife had texted once, months after the divorce, admitting that she hadn't realized how much I'd done until I was gone. She said the house felt empty and her daughter had commented on it too. I didn't reply. That realization came too late. I moved on with my life. Started dating eventually. Built friendships I'd neglected while trying to be the perfect stepfather. Focused on my career and hobbies. I was happier than I'd been in years. Sometimes I wondered if my stepdaughter ever thought about that Tuesday evening. If she ever connected her words to the consequences. If she understood that she hadn't just hurt my feelings, she'd severed a relationship permanently. I hoped she learned something from it, but that wasn't my responsibility anymore. I'd walked away with my dignity intact. I hadn't fought or created drama. I hadn't badmouthed them or tried to punish them. I'd simply removed myself from a situation where I wasn't valued. That was the revenge, really, showing them exactly what they'd taken for granted by letting it disappear. The silence I left behind said more than any argument ever could. Update 1. It's been almost a year since I posted originally. I wasn't planning to update, but enough people asked and some things happened that felt worth sharing. Life has been good. I got promoted at work 2 months after the divorce finalized, which was perfect timing. The raise meant I could afford a nicer apartment in a part of town I'd always liked. I started going to the gym regularly, picked up photography as a hobby, and reconnected with friends I'd drifted away from during the marriage. Turns out when you're not spending all your energy trying to fix a broken family dynamic, you have a lot more bandwidth for yourself. I started dating someone about 4 months ago. She's kind, independent, and has no kids. We're taking things slow, but it's refreshing to be with someone who actually wants me around, who doesn't see me as a utility player brought in to handle tasks no one else wanted to do. The contrast to my previous relationship is stark. Here's where things got interesting. 3 weeks ago, my ex-wife contacted me. Not a text, an actual phone call. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. She sounded stressed. She asked if we could meet for coffee to discuss something important about her daughter. I agreed, mostly because I wanted closure on that chapter completely. We met at a neutral cafe. She looked older somehow, worn down. She thanked me for coming and got straight to it. Her daughter was in therapy now, and the therapist had suggested she might benefit from a conversation with me. My ex-wife said her daughter had been struggling with guilt and regret about how things ended. She'd apparently told the therapist she wanted to apologize. I asked why this mattered to me now. My ex-wife looked uncomfortable. She admitted that her daughter's behavior had gotten worse after I left. Not just with her, but with teachers, friends, everyone. The therapist believed the unresolved guilt was manifesting as anger and acting out. My ex-wife asked if I'd be willing to meet with her daughter, just once, to give her closure. I sat with that request for a long moment. Part of me felt vindicated. The consequences had caught up, and now they needed something from me. Another part felt nothing at all. I asked what was in it for me. My ex-wife didn't have an answer. She just said she was desperate and hoped I'd do it out of kindness. I told her no. I explained that I'd spent 6 years being kind, being patient, being understanding, and it had gotten me nowhere. Her daughter had made her choice clear, and I'd respected it by leaving. What she was feeling now was the natural result of that choice, and working through it was her responsibility, not mine. I wasn't a tool for her therapy. My ex-wife started crying, saying I was being cruel. I disagreed. I was being honest. I finished my coffee, wished her well, and left. She sent several texts afterward calling me heartless and saying I'd changed. Maybe I had. Or maybe I'd just stopped setting myself on fire to keep others warm. I don't feel guilty about saying no. I owe them nothing.